What are the 5 different lighting patterns, and should you really care about them? I'm going to go through it all on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. If you've got a photo question, of course you know what to do by now. You just go to askdavidbergman.com, submit the form on that site, and I just might pick your question to answer right here on a future show. Today's question was sent in by Brian P., and he wants to know, hey, David, I'd love to know more about the 5 different lighting patterns: Rembrandt, butterfly, split, loop, and broad. What are they, and do you use them? Thanks, Brian, for sending that in. It's a good question, and this is something that photo educators like myself and other YouTubers talk about all the time. You might read about these things in lighting manuals, and what they do is they've given names to different lighting styles. Of course, there are infinite number of lighting styles. You can light things a million different ways. And so what they've done is they've given names to some of the sort of popular ways that we've chosen to light things and the much more common ways, and they've given names to them. Now, do you need to know these names? Well, I'm going to give my opinion at the end of this video about if you actually need to know the names and you actually need to know all of these styles. But what I'm going to do today, I am here in my studio. I've got Julia here with me. Julia has been nice enough to come in and help us out today so that I can demo some of these different lighting styles for you, Brian, and actually go through all of them and explain what they are and why you might use them. Before we do that, I've got to go through the gear. I've got a lot of gear here. Let's talk about what I've got. First of all, lighting-wise, I've got all my Westcott stuff. I'm not sure if you can see at the top of the frame there. I've got the Westcott FJ400. That's a big 400 watt-second light. That is inside of an Octa-M, Westcott Octa-M Octabox. That's the medium size. That's why it's the M. They make the S, M, and the L. You can probably guess what those stand for. I've got that on a Westcott Easy Boom. That's my new purchase. I'm actually really happy I got that thing. You'll see me move around that light, and it's really easy to do. And that's all situated on a big Flashpoint C-stand, very heavy-duty C-stand from Flashpoint. Of course, I'll put links to all of this stuff down in the description below, as I always do. Over here, I've got my Canon R5. I've got the grip on here, so that's why it looks a little bigger than normal. This is the 85 1.2 lens. And then I am tethered. I'm using a tether tool set up here. I've got my computer and an external monitor. And as I shoot, I'm going to see the images nice and big there so I can talk about them and show you what I'm doing. This is a nice, easy setup. I'm just USB tethered in. Every time I take a picture, the image will pop up there, so I'm not trying to find it on this little screen here. So that's the gear we're using that I'm going to demonstrate all this stuff. Now, when we talk about lighting patterns, the way you can tell different lighting patterns from each other is usually by the shadows. If you're looking at a photograph and you're trying to reverse engineer it and figure out how it was lit, what you want to do is look at the shadows, because shadows tell us where the light is, right? So where the shadow from your nose goes, if it's side, up, down, if it's soft, if it's hard, whatever it is, that's going to tell you what kind of light is being used. So just for sort of a control, so I can show you what this looks like before we add any shadows, the first type of lighting that you didn't mention, Brian, is called flat lighting. And flat lighting is exactly what it sounds. It's really no shadows at all. And how I'm going to demonstrate that, you may have noticed this giant umbrella behind me. This is the Westcott 7-foot umbrella. Obviously, this is the white one with the white interior. And I've got another FJ400 in there. I'm only going to use that for this flat lighting because what I'm doing is I've created a big, broad light source. And as you know, the bigger the light source, the softer the light is. Because it's on axis, it's right behind me. It's going to hit Julia directly from the front. There's no side lighting. There's really nothing. It's just going to be a big, broad source of light, and it's going to be a nice even light. So let's do a quick photo here. This is my B group. So I'm going to just do a quick shot. How you doing, Julia? Great. Perfect. There we go. And now you can see how that looks. So that is just big, flat, even lighting. There's really no shadows at all. This is definitely used sometimes. It can be used for beauty, for fashion. What it does is it minimizes the shadows. I mean, it really gets rid of all the shadows. So if you do have somebody who's got, obviously not a problem for Julia, but if you have somebody who's got a little bit more wrinkles, some skin imperfections, things like that, you want as few shadows as possible because that's going to eliminate all of that stuff. You're not going to see those imperfections if there are no shadows. So flat lighting is very flattering. It's a nice, simple, easy way. But the challenge with it, there's really no drama. There's nothing dramatic about this photo. It's just boom, just basically like flash on camera almost. And so we want to make it a little more dramatic. So that's where we get into our lighting patterns. The first one I'm going to talk about, I'm set up already to do the first one. It's called butterfly lighting. And I'm going to show you why, when you see the picture, why it's called butterfly light, but it's also called Paramount lighting from Paramount Studios. In the old days, when they used to photograph all their stars back in the day, they would use this style of lighting quite a bit. So it just kind of became known in the industry as Paramount lighting. So what it is where the flash is, where the light is, it's overhead and it's symmetrical. So it's right in the center from the camera position, and it's out a little bit so that the light is actually going to hit her. If we're too far back, you're not going to have much light on her, but it's going to hit her. It's going to fall down on her. Now, a couple things I want to point out. I do have a grid on this light, an egg crate grid, which you'll see when I rearrange the light a little bit, but I have that so the light doesn't travel all around the studio, because without that grid, the light's going to go in all different directions, and it's going to eliminate some of our shadows because I've got white walls all around here and it's going to bounce on. So I'm trying to really focus the light in one direction as much as I possibly can, just for the purposes of this demonstration. Also, because this is just a lighting demo, this is just at its most simple form that I'm doing these lighting patterns. Sometimes you might not do them just like this. You might have reflectors, you might have other lights happening, but I just want to show what these lighting patterns are. So that's why I'm just keeping it to one light. I'm going to turn off this big light here behind me. Let's turn off my B group, and I'm going to turn on my A group, which is just that one light, and you'll be able to see how that looks. All right, so let's do butterfly lighting. So Julia's all ready to go here. We're just going to go straight into camera. I'm actually going to turn up my exposure just a couple of notches here because I know I'm going to need it, and bam. And that is butterfly lighting. And the way you can tell it's butterfly lighting is directly under the nose. If you look at the shadow pattern, the shadow looks kind of, if you squint and you really stretch a little bit, kind of looks like a butterfly, right? Because it's just symmetrical. It's the shape of the nose below the nose. It has to be, that's what butterfly lighting is. And it's always going to be dead center. It's not off to the side, with that shadow under the nose that kind of looks like a butterfly. This is somewhat glamorous lighting. It's definitely used for beauty. It's used for fashion. Again, oftentimes with reflectors underneath to fill in some of those shadows so they're not quite as harsh as the way I'm doing it now. Now, sometimes when I shoot butterfly, I have them bring their chin up a little bit because I want to make sure I get some light into the eyes, but you're still going to have that butterfly shape under the nose. So that's what butterfly lighting is. Now let's move on. I'm going to come on over here. We're going to do loop lighting next. So you can stay where you are. I'm just going to move this out just a little bit. And loop lighting is a bit different because now we're going to start to get off center. We're going to move. Oops. I'm taking my whole Tether setup with me here. So loop lighting, this easy boom, by the way, is so awesome because I can just unlock this. I can move that like that. And then where's my pin? I've got my pin in here holding it down. I can pull the pin out, and there's a little storage spot right there for it. If I can find it, there we go. And I can move this thing really easy up and down. I've got some weight on here to counterbalance, and it makes it nice and easy to move this up and down. So loop lighting, these have got water bags here. These are the old Hurley Pro, Peter Hurley, thank you, buddy. These are the Hurley Pro water bags, easy to fill up on location. So that's why I use those. So loop lighting is the light sort of off to the side, right about there, not too high, and just sort of coming in from the side, actually maybe a little bit more, like so. And the difference between this and the next one is the height. So it's kind of low and just going to hit her from the side. So let's do a couple of frames. I'm going to bring up my exposure because I know I'm going to need it here. Just a half a stop. You know what? That light is still a little too high for loop, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. Just to show, I really want to make sure that you can see the difference here. So we're going to go like so, get it right in here. Right about there. This is so easy to do with this easy boom. That's why it's called that, right? All right, here we go. And there we go. That's loop lighting. Now, why is it called loop lighting? Well, if you look to the right of her nose, you can see a little shadow that kind of looks like a loop. So it's called loop lighting. Just a little bit off to the side. Look at the position of the light, right? It's not too high. but it's just creating that shadow off to the side of the nose. It gives, now we're getting into a little subtle depth here, right? We're adding a little bit of drama. The more shadow you have, the more drama in your photograph. That's why you would use these different lighting styles, because you want to add drama. That's really what it's about. And so this is a classic look. Personally, I'm not a big fan. I think it's kind of like, it's sort of dramatic, but not quite dramatic enough for me. I don't really like the light really that much to the side. My preference is the next one, which is Rembrandt Lighting. So what Rembrandt is more closer to what I had before, where we're a little bit higher. I'm gonna raise this up just a bit and out to the side here. Rembrandt traditionally is about 45 degrees up and 45 degrees over. So right about there. So we're at 45 degrees off to the side here and 45 degrees up, roughly. And I'll show you how you can tell as soon as we do the picture. Here's Rembrandt. We're thinking about the old guy Rembrandt, if he was still alive. That is Rembrandt lighting. So what Rembrandt lighting is, if you look at the shadow from the nose, it goes, kind of lines up perfectly with the line between the cheek and where the mouth area starts, right at the bottom of the cheek there. If that shadow is right in there, you also get basically a triangle of light on the opposite side of the face from the light. And that triangle of light tells you that this is Rembrandt lighting. Now, why is it called Rembrandt lighting? Well, Rembrandt, the painter, used this style of light when he painted. This is how he painted his subjects. More often than not, they had that triangle of light on the opposite side of their face from where the light is. Painters have to think about lighting too, because there's shadow and drama on the face. And you can see that triangle against your cheek there. And that is Rembrandt lighting. Now, the next one you asked about, Brian, is broad lighting. All broad lighting really means is which side of the face is being lit. So it could be from Rembrandt lighting, it could be from another style of lighting, but broad lighting, and then I'll tell you about the opposite in a second. All that means is if Julia now turns her head, keep your body where it is, just turn her head away from the light. And now, because she's looking away from that light, the light is hitting the side of her face that's towards the camera, right? So the majority of the part of her face that I can see, the broad side of her face is being lit. The one that's closest to the camera is being lit. That's called broad lighting. What that does, that adds width to the face. If you have somebody with a narrow face, this is going to add some width to them. So it's going to fill out the face just a little bit. It's going to make them look a little bit fuller. And sometimes you want to do that, and sometimes you don't. But that's what broad lighting is. Now, the opposite of that, which you didn't ask about, Brian, but the opposite is short lighting. So now, yes, if Julia looks right into the light, you can see now the lit side is it's the short side of the face. So this is called short lighting, because the side that's facing the camera is much darker. It's in shadow. So that's short lighting. And that's the difference. So those broad and short are just complete opposites. So that's broad and short lighting. And then the last one you asked about is split lighting. Split lighting is a bit unusual, not really used for fashion so much, but it is a style. Let's lower this. And what split lighting is, I'm going to go straight over here. If I can get this light right there, all the way up to the wall. And I'm going to go, oops, too far to the wall. And I'm going to go straight in here, just to the exact side. All right, there we go. And now come forward an inch or two. There you go. And split lighting split lighting is when you want intensity. So give me a real intense look right into the camera. Chin up just a little bit. Boom. And that is split lighting. And that's intense, right? So the light is 90 degrees. It's directly to the side of Julia here. One half of her face is lit. The other half is in shadow. That's split lighting. Again, not usually used for fashion. This is bold. It's edgy. It's intense. Very dramatic. So you can see now the different lighting patterns all create a different level of drama. Some of them, flat lighting, really no drama at all the way to split lighting. The more shadow we see, because there's a lot more shadow in split lighting, the more drama we have in our picture. And that's up to you as a storyteller, how you want to design that, if you want to have that kind of light or not. There are other lighting patterns, there are other lights, other ways you can light. Of course, there are infinite number of ways to light things. You could backlight somebody, which sometimes is also called rim light. There's clamshell lighting, there's cross lighting, there's all kinds of other lighting patterns you could do. But at the end of the day, why do you need to learn about these? Well, really, it's just a starting point. It's a place to start with. If you are not sure what to do, you're not sure where to put your light, these are tried and true ways to light people, usually. We're talking about people for the most part. And it gives it a name. It's like a language that photographers use. It's spoken in the industry. These are terms that have been used for a long time. Do you need to know all of the names? Not necessarily. If you work by yourself, you probably don't need to know that. But honestly, the names will help if you work with other people in the industry, if you have assistants, if you're working in a studio type of environment and you want to tell your assistants, oh, set this up for broad lighting or set up butterfly or clamshell or whatever. It's nice to be able to speak that language. Do you need to know all of these lighting patterns and know them all by heart? Honestly, no. If you don't, I didn't know all of these when I was first starting out, but I certainly didn't know the names. But like I said, it's almost like an inspiration. It'll give you, if you've never thought of, oh, split lighting, I've never thought to light somebody like that. And so having that tool in your toolbox will help you, at least when you're getting started out. Knowing different types of lighting is always going to help give you new ideas. But having said that, depending on what kind of photography you do, I think it's important to be open to experimentation. You don't want to get complacent. You don't want to just, okay, I'm going to shoot everything butterfly light and that's my style and that's what I do. You know, if you shoot catalog work or something like that where you have to have the same type of lighting every single time for that client, great, that's what you're going to do. But if you're, feeling more creative and you're doing things for yourself and your own photography and your own style, push yourself to find unique looks and different things. Start with maybe one of these lighting patterns and then change it around and add lights and add some color and do all kinds of crazy things. There's really no right or wrong way. These are creative things, creativity. Use your own creative abilities to find ways to do this as best you can and create your own style. And that's really what it's all about. So those are the 5 lighting patterns. Thank you, Brian. I do appreciate you sending that in. Julia, thank you so much putting up with us, photographing your face here today. Do you guys use these lighting patterns? Do you actually use them? Do you think about them? Do you think about the names when you're setting up your lights? I'm really curious to know. Let me know down in the comments below. Remember, of course, you can send in your own photo questions, just like Brian did. Just go to askdavidbergman.com, that website. There's a form right there on the front page. You fill that out. I read everyone personally. I pick the best ones, the ones that I think are going to help a lot of other photographers to answer here on the show. As always, I hope you're subscribed to the Adorama YouTube channel. If not, go ahead and click that button down below. Use the little bell icon so you'll be notified when new shows come out for myself and all the other hosts on Adorama TV. Thanks so much for joining Julia and I here today. Hope to see you back here next time right here on Ask David Bergman.